Welcome to Mrs. Neller's notes for her double block algebra class. These are the notes for section 6.4 entitled Solving Compound Inequalities Involving AND. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to solve compound inequalities, and compound inequalities are going to be joined by the word and or. Now sometimes they won't have the actual word and or. They will have the word or, but not and. And is written a different way, and that's what we're going to look at today, okay? And basically what this means is that instead of having one answer, you're going to have two, because you have two inequality statements that are combined together. So you'll have two answers that you have to put on your number line, and then you either shade between them or you shade away from them. Now the and compound inequalities are going to look like this. -5 is less than x is less than 8. Now it won't always be those numbers, but it'll always have a less than, and then an x, and then a less than, and then the numbers will be on the outside. So it kind of looks like a sandwich. Like the numbers are kind of like the bread, the less thans are like your mayo and your mustard, and the x is your turkey. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for that variable, and it's going to be in the middle, and we're going to undo the addition or subtraction or multiplication or division, and we're going to undo it to all three parts. And I'll explain that in just a moment when we start solving the problems in example 1. And then we'll get our two answers. And we'll mark them on our circle with either open, or mark them on our number line with either open or closed circles, except this time we have two of them. Sometimes you can have one that's open and one that's closed, or they can both be closed or both open. And then for and compound inequalities, we always shade between the circles, kind of like a sandwich. That and concept, you're going to shade in the middle. Okay, so for example 1 here, these are the only 4 examples we have. We're going to solve these inequalities and then graph them on the number line. So for part A, we can tell that it's a and compound inequality because it's all smushed together here. I don't have the actual word and, but I have my variable in this middle part, and then I've got my numbers on the outside, and then I've got my less thans. So sometimes it's helpful if you think of the problem as having 3 specific parts to it. Now sometimes when I put those lines in, that confuses students, but I'm going to leave them there just for now as we're solving, okay? Now as I solve this, I want to get the x by itself. So normally I would subtract 6 from both sides, but here I have a third part. So I'm going to subtract 6 from all 3 parts of my inequality. So 6 minus 6 is going to be 0. The x is now by itself. And then 8 minus 6 is 2. And then I'm just going to bring down these inequality signs and leave them as they were. Okay? So I can rewrite that down here. I'll have 0 is less than x is less than or equal to 2. So that's going to be my solution. Now what that means is I have 0 for an answer and 2 for an answer. So those are going to be my values that go on my number line. And we're going to make our number line just like we made it before. You need at least 3 numbers. So I'm going to put 0 and 2, and then I'm going to put a number that's in between them. Now for the 0, I have a less than that's between my x and my 0. So I'm just going to put an open circle. For the 2, I have a less than or equal to. So I'm going to put a solid circle on the 2. And then my variable's in the middle, so that's where I'm going to shade. That's where all my possible solutions could be. I want all the numbers that are between 0 and 2. That's basically what this says. Okay? Now, for part B, I can put those little arrows in again, those little dashed lines. Okay, but on C and D, I won't do that. Okay? Now, for part B, I've got 2 steps I'm going to have to do so that I can get x all by itself. First thing is I'm going to have to add the 8. So I want to do that to all three parts. So I get 15 less than or equal to 3x less than 27. And then to finish solving for x, I have to divide by 3. So I'm going to do that to all three parts. So then I'll have 5 is less than or equal to x, because the 3's cancel, which is less than 9. So there's my solution. My x is by itself, and I have my less than signs, and then I have the numbers on the outside. So when I put this on a number line, I'll need the 5 and the 9 for sure, and then something in between them, 7 happens to be right in the middle. Now I have 5 is less than or equal to x, so I want a solid circle on the 5. I have 9 is less than x, so I have an open circle on the 9. I'm going to shade in the middle because that's where my variable is. Those are all the numbers that are between 5 and 9. Okay, for part C and D, I'm not going to put those little dashed lines in there now. Okay, so we'll solve this just by looking at it the way it is. But I have 42 is less than negative 3x, which is less than or equal to 48. So again, I'm trying to solve for the x. So I'm going to have to divide by the negative 3. Now, if you remember from our previous sections, when we divide by a negative number, I have to switch my inequality signs. So 42 divided by negative 3 is going to be negative 14. And then instead of a less than, I'm going to put greater than. And then my x will be by itself now. Then instead of the less than or equal to, I'm going to put greater than or equal to. And then 48 divided by negative 3 is going to be a negative 16. Now, I do need to rewrite my problem so that I have less thans. You can leave your answer like this, and we can still graph our answer, okay? But a better way to write your solution is to flip-flop the 16 and the 14, put your x in your middle, and then you have to flip the signs, but you have to make sure that the correct sign goes with the right number. So this number, or the sign that went between the 16 and the x, was a greater than or equal to, so now I want a less than or equal to. And the sign that was between the 14 and the x is a greater than, so now I want a less than in that spot. So this is the preferred way to write your answer. But if you left it the other way, you would still be able to graph, because you still know you need a negative 16 and a negative 15 and a negative 14 on your number line. The 16 is going to have a solid circle no matter which way it's written. We know that. The 14 is going to have an open circle. Again, no matter which way it's written, we know that. And then we're shade in the middle because we know the x is in the middle. So even if you wrote your answer like we originally had before we rewrote it and boxed it, you'd still be able to get this correct graph. Okay, one last one. This one now has 2 steps to it. When we're solving for x here, I'm going to have to subtract the 1 and divide by the negative 9. I have to undo the addition or subtraction first, so I have to subtract 1 from everything. So I get negative 45 less than or equal to negative 9x. Make sure you bring down that minus as a negative now, and less than 54. Then I have to finish solving for x by dividing everything by a negative 9. So again, since I'm dividing by a negative, I'm going to have to flip my inequality signs. So 45 divided by 9, that's going to be a 5. Instead of less than, I'm going to want greater than or equal to. The x will be by itself. Instead of less than, I want greater than. And 54 divided by negative 9, that's negative 6. Now again, you can leave your answer like that or rewrite it. So you have negative 6, and then the 5, and the x is in the middle, and then the number, or I'm sorry, the sign between the x and the 6 was greater than, so we're going to put less than. The sign that was between the x and the 5 was the greater than or equal to, so we'll have less than or equal to. Now this is the preferred way to write it because it's in order. We've got our smaller number on the left and our bigger number on the right. So when we go to graph it, it's really easy just to, oops, that's a positive 5. Put 0 in the middle. Just to put your numbers in that order on the number line. And the negative 6 is going to have an open circle. The 5 is going to have a solid circle. And we shade in between them. So if it helps you when you're going through these problems in your homework to maybe take a highlighter and draw the little sections for the problem like we did up here with the little dashed pink lines, you can do that. A highlighter is a little more see-through, so you'll still be able to see your work and you'll be able to write over it. But you need to show all your work for these problems and be aware of when you need to flip your inequality signs and how you need to rewrite the statements. We want the small number on the left, the bigger number on the right. It always has less than signs for an and compound inequality, and we always shade in the middle. So practice these problems, and if you have any questions, come on in and see us before school.